Welcome to the Roundtable Podcast. There was no cold open to this one. It was
Ryan makes veiled threats about leaving early.
He does do
I didn't
that.
say leaving early. This is quite a misrepresentation.
They also weren't veiled at all. They were
I said I'm out of
True.
here at 1, so if you guys want to keep dilly-dallying to start the podcast, then that's on your time.
We were discussing possible topics for today's episode while Ryan was just sitting back there filing his nails, going like, "Okay, yeah, sure,
Whatever.
I get going soon. If you guys can please just wrap it up."
Or it's
moving.
freaking started, at least.
We started now.
I guess so,
Podcast
finally.
is on the way. It's on the rails, and it's chugging along. We got a big show today, including a few things such as the Iraq. There's a problem with The Witcher 3's new patch, although it is a big one. We're going to be talking about the new Witcher 3 patch. Fallout
50%
Shelter.
of U.S. Americans don't have maps.
That's a valid point.
Thank God we brought that up.
It was a reference to the joke he just made. You freaking savages. Oh, my God.
Most people have no idea where
Actually,
Ukraine is.
It was a really good reference to it. Fallout Shelter is doing astronomically well somehow. It's weird that mobile games are working out. Batman Arkham Knight may not be around for very long, or it might be too long until you care enough to play it again, as well as Guild of Dungeoneering and the first installment of our new segment, that's the word for it, Ask Roundtable, will be coming up later in the show. But to begin with, we want to go on a slightly more serious note. I'm sure this is news that has been circumventing and probably reached your ears and or eyes before now, but we're sorry we have to break this to you, but Satoru Iwata was the president of Nintendo Japan, and he has passed away as a result of a tumor in his bile duct. He passed away on July 11th of this year. He has been an instrumental player in Nintendo's role in the industry. I think the response overall in the public eye and on Twitter and on all sorts of places was overwhelmingly respectful, even across barriers of console wars and what have you. I think it was seen from people like Phil Spencer, the official PlayStation Twitter handle, tweeted their respects. I think this translates through all those disagreements to the practical argument that Satoru Iwata, without him, we may be a few years behind where we are right now.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's one of those things where you kind of grew up with him for a while, and it's just, he kind of was the center of my Nintendo life when I was a kid. And it sucks when he goes. There's really no words really that can. It hits you close to home, I guess. For someone you never really met and never really knew, it does suck when somebody who you kind of grew up with in a lot of ways passes on.
Especially so unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, the fact that he was really young and it happened seemingly out of nowhere after he was just at E3. It was a surprise, but, as someone who was not necessarily super familiar with him on even a professional level, much less a personal level, it's been really heartwarming seeing, like, the anecdotes that have come out from other people in the industry about, like, how affable he was, but also how good at his job he was.
For sure.
Indeed.
And there's no easy way to go from what he did. And I'm just curious to see what Nintendo's going to end up going as far as their next step is concerned.
It definitely was a surprise. You saw that he was kind of withholding himself from a lot of the bigger events. I think the last year's E3, he withheld himself from appearing just, due to quote unquote medical issues, which he's not a man of a very old age. I think he was 55.
Yeah, 55.
At the time of his death. And just really unexpected, I think, and just unfortunate for the entire industry. So, terrible news there. Not much else to be said apart from tremendous respect to him, and we greatly wish well to his family for this time of grief. But beyond that, we will transition, and there's no appropriate way to segue out of that, so we'll just move to the next story. The Witcher 3.
Smash cut to Geralt of Rivia cutting his way through the hordes of the underworld.
And then Starlight back to the panel of four of us. The Witcher 3 is still a game.
It is still a game.
And if you couldn't tell, I have a very tough time not joking about things that are very serious, so I struggled through that one. We're going to talk about something that I have no problem whatsoever being a fucking idiot about, which is The Witcher 3. And this update was massive, 7.3 gigs, and Mathis has had a chance to check out the game after patch.
Yeah, well, it's exciting because, I mean, CD Projekt Red is always known for giving out free quote-unquote DLC. A lot, like, almost all their patches are free. All the content outside of, like, the big expansions are free. This is no exception. It's a huge list of things that they fixed and added. As far as the PC version is concerned, it improved frame rate overall in the game. It improved optimization. Performance in general is really good. And they added an option for alternate movement style in the game, which, if you remember, one of our complaints was the way Geralt moves is kind of stiff and annoying, and he has a sense of momentum, so when you stop moving, he still takes a few steps, almost Assassin's Creed-like. But if you go to the alternate movement style, it's immediate response in the way he turns and which way you're moving him, so there's no more of that inertia, no more of that stumbling feeling, and he's more under your direct control, which is good.
Have they done the same thing to the horse movement, or has that remained unchanged?
I think the horse movement remains unchanged as of right now. I think it's just Geralt's movement. But on the downside, I guess console users are reporting that there is massive frame drops in their gameplay. I think cities have dropped down to like 20 frames a second. They've acknowledged it on their Twitter, and they're working to fix whatever the issue is on PS4 and Xbox One. But overall, like, the number of fixes that's come out of this patch are pretty goddamn huge and impossible to cover all in just one sitting, unless we want to take a half an hour to go through it all.
No, yeah, I think we should read the entirety of the patch notes, honestly.
All right, I'm ready. Let's
make
start.
some time for that. The game is still, got 1,000 or so players on Steam right now, still garnering its fair share of hours spent in the game. I wish they had adjusted the horses, though, man. It feels like you're piloting a freaking oil barge sometimes, trying to run around fences and stuff. I
barely use the horse at this point. I'm never on him.
Do you unlock flying at some point?
I wish. That'd be great.
Oh.
We're at the point where I'm almost like, if I want to finish The Witcher 3, I need to do what I do if I'm like going to my parents' house for 3 or 4 days. I need to make a huge backlog and then take time off, be away from the internet, and just play like 10 hours or 12 hours of The Witcher 3 a day.
Yep.
You just actually hit the nail on the head there of how the only way I can actually approach getting into a game so heavy and demanding, such as The Witcher 3. Like, at the stage of where I am right now with everything I do, I cannot go down to the TV and the consoles and all of that, just the regular gaming sphere, and just sit down and play something for 2.5 or 3 hours, which used to be basically how I would spend every afternoon as a younger kid. And that's impossible for me now. I can't disconnect for that long unless I'm forced into a position where I have to do that.
That's what streams are for, man. It's your excuse to play longer games.
That's true. But then
that's how it's been working for New Vegas, for sure.
Yeah,
that's
that exactly what it is for me. If I wanna have an excuse to play longer games, I'm like, I'll stream it.
But then you'll get backseated the whole time.
I don't look at chat. Are you kidding me?
Oh,
I'm looking at the comments
you think
section.
Mathis reads a chat or comments? No way.
Dude, I'm actually I'm pro backseating. I'm with you, Twitch chat. They've saved me so many times in Fallout New Vegas where I'll be like, oh, I don't think we need this, what is this energy cannon? Let's just sell it. It's really heavy.
It's really the only reason you're successful in Isaac is all that backseating.
Yeah, dude, I don't know anything about Isaac. The trick is it's actually YouTube backseating. It's asynchronous, but it works really well. So I do something 2 weeks ago. Oh, sorry, man. Was I boring you?
Yeah, you bored the fuck out of me.
I do something 2 weeks ago, uploaded, and then I get told about the mistake that I made, and I get in my time machine, and I go back and I sleep in Isaac's bed and get 3 spirit hearts, so that I win the run that I won. Even
you win
more
it harder.
Exactly.
This guy was detailing for us all this insane stuff that he does. He actually reads through comments that are mapping out the rooms and the floor layouts for seeds, and then he programs these batch files to like preset random generation in Isaac.
Yeah, dude. That's why I'm taking programming classes, is so that I can engineer my own seeds. I have a seed generator that always makes sure there's one D100 on every Isaac run.
I wish you would actually use.
A bot.
Oh yeah, the bot
So
could work.
He was making a bot that was going to play. It was going to learn like Dragon Naturally Speaking. So after a while, he just plays enough. He gives it the data, and then it plays through the Isaac seeds, and he doesn't even have to be there.
Oh yeah, man.
That would be my favorite part of games like Virtua Fighter, honestly.
That's the end game.
Where I would just like watch the AI play each other. Well, I think this mostly has to do with the fact that I'm just abysmal at all fighting games, and I'd rather watch the AI do things correctly.
You say this during Evo, that like there's
I know.
nobody to watch.
Yeah, no, it's over
Come
now,
on.
so I've got like 3 days of leeway on that.
That's true.
But no, I think I'll come back to The Witcher 3 at some point when I am forced out into a cabin in the woods with no other electricity provided besides the exact amount necessary to power a PS4 and television to play The Witcher 3 on. But for now, I've got Rocket League, and that's all I need.
It's funny how that happens, isn't it? Sometimes a game will come out and it'll just completely steal the freaking thunder away from something else that you still liked.
Yeah. I think the last time that happened was Skyrim, actually. Mm-hmm. Where, well, I also waited for the midnight release of Skyrim. This was before it was a big deal or anything. But now the midnight releases are at my doorstep, and they wait till midnight to deliver the game to me. That's how things happen these days.
That's about right.
Mm-hmm. But I'm glad to see that The Witcher 3 is, of course, getting big patches. They have been providing a few little extra tidbits of free downloadable content and extra materials as well, and they plan, apparently, to do so for quite a while. Which, you know, CD Projekt Red, I think, just has a good reputation for that in general, of providing beyond the Call of Duty. Well, oh god, wow, that was a double meaning attached to that one. Like the extra mile as far as new content and DLC and support for the game beyond release. So always a nice feeling to see developers go that route with big releases.
I'm ready for The Witcher 4, man.
That's true. Yeah, they've been slacking.
CD Projekt Red.
They listened to feedback so well that they added this movement system. What if everybody's just like, you need to make more Witcher games and make them free? Well, they
What if everybody was like, you know, you should kill all people that have like 2 O's in their last name? I think we should be
very
concerned that
specific.
CD Projekt Red is a little bit too impressionable. It's like, geez, have a backbone.
You took that like 3 levels deep out of nowhere, and it
wasn't
scared
out of
me.
nowhere. Is Nick's suggestion there? You know, they respond to fan feedback.
It was a veiled compliment, to be honest.
If the fans asked them to jump off a bridge, would they do it? I hope not.
Nick's weird suggestions.
I have a lot of those.
You do. Witcher 3 still available. It's awesome. Go play it. You should play
Almost
it,
as
though.
many concurrent players as Rocket League.
Nice. That's impressive. Rocket League is still #1 on Steam.
That is really impressive.
Have you
for
played
something
it?
that is
That's
not
why.
an early access multiplayer survival sandbox game.
Yeah, I'm shocked,
The
honestly.
zombies.
No offense, Mathis.
Looking at the top
You
sellers,
say that, that's like something I still play a lot of.
looking at the top sellers on Steam right now, there is one early access survival game.
It's
And
Ark, and
that is
Ark
Ark.
bad. And
To
I
be
don't
fair,
get it.
Ark does have like 70,000 concurrent players, so
Which is insane.
that's
we-
about triple Rocket League on PC at least.
We got Rocket League, Grand Theft Auto, Counter-Strike, Alien Isolation, Witcher 3 still up there. Ultra Street Fighter 4, The Crew, Active Aggression, and Terraria. Terraria.
I like that. I like that one.
That one's pretty good.
I didn't know Active Aggression was that popular. Is it like a reboot or something, or is it a studio that used to make RTS games that's coming back? I don't know.
Good question. It's
Alien
on
from the
sale,
golden
but I don't
era.
know if that's really...
Is
Well,
an explosive
it's-
techno
it just came
thriller
out.
real-time strategy game hailing from the golden era of RTS.
I ask because I saw you tweeting about it with Ohm. on
Oh,
Wednesday.
yeah. Well, he was complaining about the resource thing, and I was just providing the counterpoint as to why that was implemented. I haven't played it, but I've played a lot of RTSs that do what this does. It's all.
It's available September 2nd.
Well,
That's
that's
a
pretty good.
pre-purchase.
I guess it's aiming to be like the replacement to Command and Conquer.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Makes sense.
Anyway, that's not what we're talking about because none of us have played it.
Talking about so many things, Fallout Shelter is one of them.
It is.
It is either raked in or racked up, depending on your preference. 5.1 million in 2
In
weeks.
lunchbox sales.
Yes. Exclusively from lunchbox transactions. If you purchased Fallout Shelter with a lunch pail from the 1990s, you are accounted toward this acclamation of wealth. Bethesda's Fallout Shelter, the mobile game tie-in to Fallout 4, has made 5.1 million. This is a mobile game with no upfront cost. This is all based on in-app purchases. And I haven't looked at a lot of data, admittedly, surrounding in-app purchases for most other games, but it became very clear very early that that strategy worked tremendously well on the mobile platform. And this example just stands out to me, and I am sure it's almost entirely because it's Fallout, as a means of showcasing the fact that this is why this has become so prominent and so popular all of a sudden, is because it has potential like this.
I'm sure it's also partially the people buying it because the name Fallout is slapped onto it. So I'm sure that it didn't hurt them whatsoever. I haven't played it because it's not on Android, so I can't really speak to...
Going to be my point. How amazing is that it made that much money? It's not even out on Android
Only
yet.
on iOS, yeah. That alone is pretty significant, too.
Am I the only person who thinks like $5.1 million is not that much money for a mobile game?
I don't know what they were expecting, so I would be interested to see it against their projections of it. And we have to take into account the fact that this is not even necessarily a big moneymaker, at least from the perspective of the fact that it essentially is advertising for Fallout 4. So
Here we go.
profitable
I agree with
advertising
that.
for another game is
Yeah.
alone kind of insane.
I think it's really cool that it's like a companion app, basically, or something to kind of stoke the fires of hype until Fallout 4 comes out. But I don't particularly think that it's that big of a seller, which is fine because it's free and it's just, in-app purchases. But I don't know, 5.2 million.
Here's an example. Candy Crush in 2012 made $164 million.
Yeah. But
That
I
was
mean,
a full year.
This has been a month.
Right, but if you
true.
multiply like 5.2 million by 12, it still does not come out to that level.
It was 2 weeks, actually.
2 weeks.
But
Okay.
still, yeah, it's not quite there. But at the same time, that's competitive in that
But if you look at
space.
the money that was spent on development of this as basically like ad revenue that they spent to promote Fallout 4, like that's a really good investment.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
arguing
mean,
even from a
Yeah.
business case. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say, like, I don't know, like this is going to change Bethesda's like development principles or something like that. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I just kind of take it as like, it's kind of a good success story. Most of what I've heard on Fallout Shelter is positive as far as like the scope of a mobile game goes.
Fallout Shelter it's been received well critically, and it's popular, obviously. It's selling well, or downloading well, I guess I should say.
Acquisitions.
Yeah. But looking at this from the stance of somebody involved in analyzing sales data at Bethesda, they look at 5.1 million as a lump sum, and you're probably right. In the span of 2 weeks or even a month, the $10.2 million there is not a huge amount of money. It's significant still, just as a lump sum, but it's not game-changing. But I think what makes that $10.2 million sum over the course of 30 days unique is what it weighs against. So traditionally, you would have that amount of money being weighed against the cost of advertising the game, the cost of marketing, and different sorts of issues with cuts from sales, the cut for Steam, the cut for the development team, and all that stuff. Like, there's different ways the money is being divvied out. But when you cut out the advertising and marketing budget and basically act or allow the game to act as that marketing platform for something else, but still put enough effort into this game to have it sell or do so tremendously well, that is something that I think could be a game changer. I think the concept of Fallout Shelter allowing other developers and publishers to get the idea in their heads of, we can do this too in different ways, not even necessarily just with a mobile app, but with just like a little downloadable game ahead of the release of the major game to get people, A, invested in the release of the future game, and B, already spending money on, essentially Fallout 4. You can even look at it as people spending money on Fallout Shelter are putting money in the budget of Fallout 4's profitability, more or less.
Yeah, I guess you could see it that way. I'm worried that they would look at it and start to dilute it, because that seems to be the way these things always go. Like, Bethesda made a good run of it because they cared and they have a lot invested in their property. They didn't look at it like throwaway. Like, this game can stand to some degree on its own, but you're going to get people that will eventually start to look at this as just like a very cynical, dry marketing budget, and the game will become pointless. It'll just be, what we usually see as companion apps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To even put some perspective on that, too, Games Radar actually does a little bit of a breakdown here. They can tell you that Fallout 3 made approximately $18.3 million in its first 2 weeks of sales, compared to the 5.1 generated from Fallout Shelter. So that alone, I mean, that gives us an idea of what amount of money is significant to a company like Bethesda.
But $15.3 million in 2008 is like $21 million.
That's like $86 million in today's money.
It's like quintupled. It's not actually quintupled, but it is like, it's maybe like 20, 25, 30% higher now, just due to inflation. But I don't know. I saw a figure that Skyrim, in its lifetime, so not in its first 2 weeks, but its lifetime, made over $1 billion gross. So,
wow.
It's like a 200-fold increase over this. But I mean, I don't really know with what context or what kind of like consequence we're approaching this with. I think it's cool that there's a companion app. I think it would be cooler if there were not microtransactions in it, because whenever I see a free-to-play game with microtransactions, my initial hunch is usually that, especially on mobile, as a commercial, it's meant to just kind of like inhibit gameplay and engineer it to kind of get you to buy the microtransactions. Maybe that's not the case.
Often
I
the
haven't
case,
played it.
but I don't think it really is in this case.
It
I
almost
had
can't.
no impetus to buy anything
Ask
in this
Dan
one.
Giesling. He's got a 30-part series on it. He'll
Yeah.
know.
Has he just been buying things, like purchasing microtransactions 4 or 5 times per
I
episode?
watched like the first few episodes, and he buys a lot of lunch boxes. But he's on episode 46,
This guy.
so
It's just him squandering his Big Brother winnings
I know.
live on
all,
video.
all on Fallout Shelter.
I think he's made an agreement with everybody. Every cent of ad revenue goes toward making in-app purchases in Fallout Shelter.
Can you imagine if Animal Crossing was like a free-to-pay mobile game?
Free to
that-
pay, that's what they should call it.
No, I mean, that's like a thing people say now.
Oh, I thought
but
it was
like,
clever.
for $5 you can move the clock around or something. How ridiculous would that be?
Yeah.
I would be living in a box somewhere.
Paying $5?
Yep.
What I want to speculate more on is what this, what the precedent of more advertisement games, I guess I would call them, could bring. I'm worried a little bit, but also cautiously optimistic about things like Mass Effect, which is apparently getting another new game soon, having a tie-in like this, but being a bit more blatantly so an advertisement for the next Mass Effect game. I think Fallout Shelter was endearing and appealing enough in and of itself to kind of, sweep under the rug the idea of,
Yeah.
we're just paying them money so we can pay them more money. But I don't think I have the same level of trust in teams like EA or Activision or Ubisoft to not just go all in on the idea of we can make money in our attempt to make money.
They'll make for Fallout or for Far Cry 5, they'll do like the radio tower companion app or something where you've got to like geocache outside your house and it'll like hit buttons.
And I can maybe
I don't
even
know.
get into something like that, but at the same time, the odds are not high that it
Well, I
would
was
be.
going to say, I hope the developers that are looking to do this look at the fact that this was also announced at a time where people have been craving Fallout a new Fallout announcement forever. So they announced Fallout 4, and then they immediately were like, also, you can play something Fallout-ish right now. And people would be like, yeah!
And it was a clever
like,
idea that ties well into the concept and themes of the actual game and doesn't feel forced at all.
Exactly. It all kind of made sense, and it makes sense as to why they're making so much money, because they're cashing in on the hype and stuff. So I hope other developers realize that they're not necessarily going to have that kind of success with their
But they're
stuff.
going to do it anyway, is the
No
thing.
one's going to give a shit about fucking Call of Duty bomb shelter.
Dude, they've got zombies in Black Ops 3.
Oh,
Fucking dude.
Shit.
Bring it on. I start selling the radio tower companion app. Start selling fucking, buy extra HP. We already got Capcom releasing a remake of Devil May Cry 4 and then selling health orbs to refill your health via premium microtransactions.
Really?
On
I
Steam.
didn't even know that one.
It's like an HD remake.
I hate that.
It was 3 or 4. It was the one that
It was
people really like.
4.
I think 4. Okay.
4 is the one that they
don't
just
say it like that, though,
re-released.
because then you got the Devil May Cry 3 purists saying that was the one everyone really loved.
Everyone loves Devil May Cry 1. Devil May Cry 2 is a disappointment, and then I lose the plot. I forget it after that.
1, 3, and 4 are the ones that people like the most.
Okay. If we're already at the point where literally a company will be like, we've remade a 10-year-old game, and we're going to sell you the consumables that are specifically supposed to, like, balance the difficulty, fuck it, man. I don't care. Charge me for playtime. Ban me over. I'll just be over here playing Rocket League. That's fine. I'll be over here playing a $20 game I've already played for like 88 hours or something like that in 2 weeks.
And a game from 2008 on your stream, Fallout New Vegas.
Yes,
And I'll be playing Terraria, which I bought for $5 3 years ago and have played for
I was
hundreds of
given
hours.
like 4 copies of Terraria for free, and the shit was just like, it's a currency in and of itself. It's just gift copies of Terraria. I'll give you
Value is
14
off the
gift
hook.
copies of Terraria for that Fallout Shelter lunchbox code.
Right now, Terraria is the 3rd most popular game on Steam, like by concurrent players.
Yo, but
That's
what about
still
Starbound,
insane.
though?
about
I
it?
can't join you on this circle jerk until the game's done. I would love to.
I don't know why we want to bash it when it's not done. That I don't
Don't
get
they want to
that.
release it this year?
I heard that they're trying to
If
release it.
you're the one bringing the negativity, you gotta have that information, man.
Here's my negativity. There's only been one update to Starbound in the past year.
I don't believe that
I
that
keep
is true.
every time I upload something, people are like, "Man, you got to check out Starbound. They redid the whole system again." It's like, all right, I will. I'll wait until it's done and then I'll check it out again.
You gotta wait
Never
until
said I
it's
didn't
done.
like the game. I just didn't want to play it anymore because we finished it. We kind of saw it all the time.
It's holding them to different standards, I guess, between Starbound and Terraria. Also, what I've noticed is Bethesda is, I think, the rulers of gaming hype edging. So they just keep a firm grasp on that shaft
Yeah.
and keep that pressure building up till the time
They
is
dig the nails in.
yeah, they're just like, they get the pressure on there, and they're looking at you like dead in the eye, like, yeah, you want this, don't you? You like that Fallout game so much, and you're
very
like, yes,
disturbing.
please, I need it. And then, just when the time is right, it's E3 2015, and they say, oh, you're gonna get it, but you can play some Fallout Shelter before that. And that's when they got you. That's when you blow your load on microtransactions and pale box lunches. That's how it works.
Is anyone just like,
Very
first
uncomfortable.
off, really grossed out, but
Yeah.
secondly, like Nick and I were talking about on the stream this week, I don't barter. Like, my brain shuts off when people try to negotiate with me. I just offer what I think is a fair price, and if it's not fair, then that's democracy or capitalism. That's fine. Whenever, like, I sniff out a game that is, like, trying to manipulate me psychologically into buying stuff, I'm just like, I'm not even mad about it. I'm just like, I don't like that. And I'll just, like, turn it off. Like,
Well, I mean, I'd like to stop the trend from keeping going down that direction if possible, but it's not like any one of us have that ability.
I think one of us
Funny
does. We just have to
dialogue.
figure out who.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a mystery novel. I like
I'd
that
play that
play.
game.
Yeah. No, that's a good... we could pump that full of microtransactions, actually. The Roundtable Podcast mystery game. Who among them has the power to stop microtransactions? Purchase a magnifying glass for $1.99 and look inside Ryan's nose to see whether or not the secrets lie within. I bet I could get a publisher for that.
$69, you can just decide which one of us has the power, I guess.
Yeah, that's actually a tier on our Patreon page now. So have fun with that one.
It will be in a moment.
Stop microtransactions forever. Only $1,000.
Over, we'll have a stretch goal. Over $2,000, every additional dollar goes to buying consumables in Devil May Cry 4 HD.
Perfect.
Fallout Shelter is still available. Fallout 4, more info I'm sure will surface as the edge continues to build. Next up, Batman Arkham Knight won't be fixed on PC until spring. And this is the misleading headline of misleading headlines, because this is actually a story from Kotaku Australia, and Australian spring is completely different from American, or I guess just Western Hemisphere spring. Which,
Normal spring.
yeah, wow, yeah. How
I wasn't
dare
gonna
you.
go there, but you went there for me.
So
Between September and November.
right, yeah. So that's Australian spring, and I am just purely confused by this.
Why? What's
It's-
there to be confused about?
It's startling, I
it's
think is what it
WB.
is. There's an entire platform that WB is missing out on sales for this game from on the PC, because they've withheld it from purchase on this platform until these critical, like, experience
Makes the
ruining
game
games are
unplayable,
fixed. Yeah.
This is
And-
also the same people, though, who released a broken Batman Origins that says, we're not going to fix the bugs. We're too busy working on DLC you're going to pay for later.
Right.
Not the greatest PR strategy.
There's no sense of urgency here at all.
Well, I think there's a sense of urgency. The problem is it's only now being worked on properly. And there's so many broken things about the PC port that they need to work on it from the ground up.
It's like,
So they
if
they
it's
had to
2.5
have
months.
known.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yo, they did know that. Well, according to an article, they did know. Like, playtesters told WB a ton of times, but they just said it was good enough and sent it out anyway.
I'm drawing comparisons in my head to the botched release of Halo the Master Chief Collection, where there were all of these horrible issues with matchmaking and servers, and there were even some issues with the single-player mode that were obviously things that people noticed in Q&A before the game went gold and before they were ready to ship. People knew these bugs were there. I think this is almost worse than that. Being a purely single-player experience where it's not like you are dependent on thousands of people barraging your servers to bring up these bugs that you couldn't have otherwise noticed before. This is stuff that people making and playing and playtesting the PC port of this game have to have noticed and have to have known were in there and could be problematic to thousands of people upon release. And while I have kind of just accepted the fact that games are going to be a little bit broken most of the time on their PC release and they'll just be fixed in a week or two, this is now just completely not even pushing the envelope, but shredding the envelope up and instead deciding to mail it in something completely different. As far as the analogy is concerned, at least. They might have still just mailed the games in, manila folders or something. But I can't get it. I can't figure it out. I can't lay reason behind the decision to just kind of ride the wave with this.
I think you have to. Well, okay, from my perspective, because I'm the anti-consumer on the podcast, apparently.
No, we have our labels now. You're the anti-consumer. Mathis fucking hates everything.
Apparently.
I'm doing something wrong, I'm sure.
I'm
nobody
the
has
boost
pointed it out
manager.
yet. Yeah, boost manager. There we go.
I think you have to pick what you're mad of these two things at WB4. And I am no huge fan of WB, as we've talked about privately on some occasions. However, I think you can be mad at them for releasing a shitty game, or not a shitty game, but a game that doesn't work properly for most or many people at least. Or you can be mad at them for pulling them from the store and delaying its release because you'll be one of those people who's like, oh, but it could have been working for me and I could be playing it right now. I don't think you can be mad at them for both because I think that them waiting until it's actually done now represents a bit of an apology or a bit of them trying to rectify their past mistake. But there's no doubt that if it was going to take like 2.5, 3 months, or I guess it's 3 months from now, so it was going to take 5 or 6 months. Hopefully they just realize to do that before release next time, or delay release until it all works.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think you should be mad that they pulled it off the stores. I think that's dumb. I don't think you should be. I mean, that's what should have happened. I'm curious if they had to have pulled it because of Steam refunds, right?
Well, hold on. I don't even want to necessarily say that that's what should have happened either.
Well, it should have worked.
It should have. Okay, yeah. I mean, if we're going completely hypothetically, yeah, like they should have released a fixed working version of the game on PC.
Do you really continue selling a broken game though? I think them pulling it was smart. I think they didn't have a choice. I mean, I didn't return or refund my copy, and I could still play my copy. Like that's not the problem. But taking it off the store shelves, a completely broken game, is I think necessary.
I'm relating it to the fact that first of all, that just seems like a move to protect consumers from themselves from a certain point of view.
Well, how much are they losing from people buying the game and then refunding the game? Because Steam still keeps their cut of the game, whether it's refunded or not.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, that is what I heard through Jim Sterling.
Huh.
So I hear the Steam keeps their cut, whether you've refunded or not.
That's actually really shocking.
That seems a little... If it's true, it seems sort of fucked up.
Yeah. That's a whole new fucking can of worms you just opened up here, man. Steam keeps their cut of refunds?
Yeah, I'm going to double check that right now. Outside of that, continue word. I'll double check that right now.
One point I would like to make is how could they release a game that needed 6 more months of work?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Even that.
Right?
I'm trying to rationalize like 3 different points of view in my head simultaneously here. But I said that they're kind of protecting consumers from themselves by pulling the thing off of store shelves. When they released it initially with all those bugs intact, they subjected themselves to the whiplash of negative consumer feedback. And that alone, I thought, would probably be enough to punish them sales-wise. And they kind of just took the bullet upon themselves when they said, like, you know what, we're taking it off this platform. We don't want to get any more horrible Steam reviews or bad press or anything like that. We're going to take it out, stop the bleeding, and then address the wound itself in 6 months, I guess, when we have the time. Because, I don't know, like, they must be on a timeline for something else that they're working on right now.
This is really cynical, but I feel like they did this with this timeline specifically so they could now have a holiday release.
Oh, God, maybe.
So they could then play it up and say, look, the new and improved Batman, and it's right in time for all the big holiday season stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I am normally not cynical to that extent, but I got to admit that sounds plausible. And if I may put on my dastardly, Victorian-era hat and twirl my mustache, what they do is inevitably WB's or Rocksteady's working on some extra DLC for this.
Yeah, they'll roll it in and call it a special thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
they'll
fuck,
say,
man.
hey, we've waited for the game to come out, or we waited until it was good. We did it right this time. And as a thank you, we're going to roll in the $15 DLC content.
Because we respect you so much as customers that we were okay with releasing a game that needed 6 more months of work. Here you go.
It's the classic double dip.
It's the classic double dip.
Oh, fuck,
I think
man.
I'm just cynical enough that makes sense.
If that actually happens, I don't even think... Here's how likely I think something along those lines is that it doesn't even seem like a bold prediction.
No.
But at the same time, I also have a hard time reconciling it and how I should feel about it, because I'm like, well, they probably want to do something. Like, what if they just came out with it and they're like, here it is. Like, they just dump it out in November, and they're like, by the way, the DLC is also expensive as well.
Yeah, no, they're going to play it up, of course. So it makes sense that this is the direction they would take it in. I think that really is what's going to happen.
Tokyo Game Show 2015. Warner Brothers makes a presentation. Saying the new and improved Batman Arkham Knight with $15 non-lethal Batmobile bumper DLC. Coming to PC.
And we added
fixed version.
anti-aliasing options too. It was like multiple types instead of just ×2.
Mathis, are you okay, man?
This is a long ass article.
He's really studying that Steam refund
yeah,
thing.
I am actually. It's,
You look like
it's interesting.
your wife just got
So-
diagnosed with like some
This is-
incurable illness. You're trying
Sorry. It's really long and it's a little confounded, but like a basic rundown is like, here's an example. Player buys a copy of a $20 game. Standard Steam
Sucker.
split means Steam gets $6 and developer gets $14. Player decides to get a refund. Steam defaults to placing the $20 back into the Steam wallet. The developer now gets $0, but Steam still has $20 locked into your wallet. Nearly any way you spend that $20, Steam is still taking their cut.
Yes.
So that is how it defaults. I guess there's a way to request your money back to like however you ended up doing it, but the default refund is Steam wallet cash.
So Steam does get its cut either way, but it's not that every refund the developer
Right.
pays 30% directly to Steam.
Correct.
Okay.
So
But
that's
when
how
you
it
do a
works.
refund, is it like a series of boxes that you check which form of money back you
Have
like?
any of us
So I get
filed
there
for a
is a
refund
way.
yet?
I have not.
I haven't.
But I guess when you do, there is a tick box somewhere where you can
Yeah.
offer, but it's defaulted at Steam wallet cash.
So if you're not thinking, you'll click through it, and
Right.
that'll be how you get it. But if you pay
Right.
attention for a second, you can get it back as
that's
however
what
you
that's
paid
what
it.
it's looking like
Okay.
right now.
You have to pay such close attention to almost every prompt you get on your
Installing
computer and
Flash,
online these
man.
days. Fucking installing Java. If you're not careful with that shit, you got Yahoo taskbar and fucking what is it? They're gonna install Ask Search on your shit if you're not
Flash, did you
careful.
see the McAfee BS
Yeah.
antivirus program that you don't want, and it freaking updates like every day, so you keep getting prompted to download the stupid crap.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't need this Flash update. And then 2 weeks ago, there's a huge like Flash vulnerability that
Right.
exposed like 20 million Americans' private information. You're like,
Freaking Firefox has made it their personal mission now to not support Flash, so you've got to go out of your way to make it work.
I think that's a good thing. Well, I mean, this
It is a good thing, but my God, it's annoying.
a different podcast, I guess. But
I know.
Yeah.
So to wrap up on the WB thing, the only other problem I have with WB outside of that is like this is like their fourth strike. I mean, they had
Exactly.
they had the whole Shadows of Mordor thing, which was like really sketchy with their review copies, and like they were only doing like review copies to people they were doing like a contract with or whatever. Then you had Batman Arkham Origins that was broken, like, we're not gonna fix it, we're gonna make DLC instead. Then they had the completely, utterly broken Mortal Kombat 10 PC release that was also shuffled off to a third-party developer for PC port, and now the same exact thing is happening with Batman Arkham Knight. So if anything, this is just another feather in the cap of don't fucking pre-order your games, just wait till they come out. Digital storefronts can't run out of copies.
WB also had the in September. It's been quite the year. They had the Shadow of Mordor like paid positive coverage controversy
Yep,
with
that's what I was saying.
YouTubers,
Yep.
And they've just been generally anti-YouTube, like, as long as I
which is
remember.
hilarious.
Because
Given-
I did a video on Shadows of Mordor just for like, hey, I'm gonna play through this game, and the first one got slapped with copyright by WB, and I was like, fuck this, not touching this game. Apparently, I have to.
Meanwhile, they're paying YouTubers
Yeah, exactly.
like $1,000 a video to make like positive coverage of it. How
Yeah, they really wanna
WB
control
does not
everything.
have the same reputation as like a Ubisoft or
That
EA
actually
right now
was
is
just
beyond
crossing
me.
my mind of the
Yeah.
fact that WB really should be, based on their track record in the past 2 years, on the very top of the list of companies that are not in the gamer's favor.
If there was no Steam refunds, I bet your bottom fucking dollar this game Batman would still be on Steam right now, and they'd be like, we'll fix it when we fix it.
That's a valid point too, actually.
I
think
do give them the benefit though. Like the fact that it's not coming out for 3 months from now, I don't know that I necessarily default to thinking that that's just, oh, we've got like people are working on other stuff right now. I kind of take that as like, you know, if you want it to be done well, you're
Yeah, if it needs to be done right, well, it's that broken.
I don't want them to have the fucking audacity, though, to sit there and tell us, all right, well, if you guys want this thing done right, you probably should have waited until we were finished with our development cycle, which extended to 6 months beyond the game's initial release date. So
If
Look,
we
man,
your
do
fault.
end up living in that reality where it comes out on PC with like a positive PR spin because they've got like some DLC rolled into it, then I'll be a little cynical, especially if it comes out not in like September or October. If it comes out like the week before major releases in November start dropping, it's just going to look a little too convenient.
Right? Look, man, like, dude, they should have just delayed it in the first place. PC gamers are used to their ports, especially if they're good ports, being delayed. GTA 5 is the prime example of a really good game that was delayed years, but when it came out, it was an
Yeah.
amazing port, and we were like, this is like the best version of the game, hands down.
After we bought it 2 other times, though, and
But that's the thing
sucks.
is we are willing to buy it
Yeah.
again on the PC just because of the way that Rockstar handled the port of the game. It is outstanding.
Is it asking too much though to just want like a working good version of the game the same day the consoles get it? I guess it is.
I don't even know if I would use the phrasing asking too much. I would just say like, I don't know, it just depends on the route that the developer is taking. I think Rockstar probably had the idea of the console release in mind, and while it is kind of frustrating as a PC gamer primarily to see that and be like, oh, well, shit, I guess we're going to have to wait a while to experience this the way I want to experience it, or I can just play it on a console for now and then buy it again later.
Well,
that's just like the attitude I have now.
It's become this sort of commonplace thinking in this area where it's like the developers know people are going to buy it on console, so they push the console first, then they need the extra time to work on the PC version, which is the version that is like the best version.
Yeah.
Right? So they've marketed it now in this position where it's like they know we're going to buy it twice most of the time because we're really enthusiasts. We want to get everything the day it comes out.
Right.
Right?
I
So they're
feel
capitalizing on that.
Games like Grand Theft Auto can get away with it because it's kind of what's the free to play term they always use? Like, oh, it's evergreen.
Oh.
You can always keep playing it, and it's like always going to be fresh because it's like you make your own experience. It's emerging gameplay,
Like Clicker Heroes.
like Clicker Heroes, I guess.
Betcha.
But Batman, I don't know. Like, if Batman Arkham Origins is that the recent one or is it
Night.
Arkham Knight is the
Sorry,
Knight,
I actually had a dream about
Origins
this
the
last
last one.
night. I was like, it's fucking Asylum City Night Origins or Origins Night. Anyway, you can't really do that. Like, if they came out with like an 18-month difference, if it came out on PS4 and Xbox One, and then 18 months later came out, like in 2017, it came out on PC, I think people would be like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But to me, it's too convenient because we don't work in business to say this, but it really feels like that's a game you could put out in November. If it needs 6 months of extra time, put it out in October or November instead of June and make sure it works. Wouldn't that just be better than having to deal with this right now?
Arkham Knight was going to sell no matter when you put it out.
Would you rather have like this negativity surrounding the game that is apparently by all accounts really good, surrounding a good game and your company, or would you rather put it up against the new Assassin's Creed? Like, I think that says a lot about your company if it does come down to that decision of like, oh, we would rather release it 6 months early and suffer the consequences than risk it going up against the new Call of Duty or something like that. It's like, I'm constructing this and it might not be a real situation, but if it does come down to something like that, that's real shitty.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to give it a new subtitle like the Arkham Knight Black Edition or something, just to further differentiate it as a different game than it was.
I don't want to rule out any of these horribly far-fetched possibilities we've constructed, which is telling of Warner Brothers' practices so far. But all the
And don't
same,
you dare stream it. I mean,
God, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah. And the other thing that sucks for PC owners is if you ended up picking up the season pass, the DLC is already starting to come out on console. The Batgirl DLC hit already on console. You don't get that on PC. You have to wait.
Yeah.
Like none
So
of the
this
DLC.
is like over and above don't pre-order.
Right.
Like, probably don't pre-order DLC.
I mean, you would think not to, but like, yeah, PC owners don't get the DLC until
I think we
the
need to
game
go one
comes
step
back out.
further and say not only don't pre-order, but like don't even buy new games for a week.
That's something I've been living by for a long time, for the most part. Like, if it's a brand new game and I don't have a review copy for it, like I won't touch it for a week to make sure it works. Almost every time.
Potential for getting screwed is just really large.
I
lately.
buy everything day one, but I do it with a complete cognizance of the fact that sometimes I get fucked.
Yeah, it's gonna possibly be broke.
I bought EA UFC day one, and about like 15 minutes into it, I was like, "Oh, that's like $60 down the drain." And I played it for like 10 or 15 hours, but I was like, "This is not very good."
I almost have that extending into every purchase I make now. I think the gaming atmosphere has spoiled my ability to buy something and not at least have a half-hearted expectation that it's just not going to work the way it's supposed to out of the box.
Man.
This couch I bought, man, I got to give it some time. It might not work properly when I get home.
exactly. I bought 3 printers since I moved to Washington. because
though.
2 of them fucking straight up didn't work when they got out of the box. I tried to hook them up, and nothing happened.
Printers are the worst.
They just sat there staring at me, just like
What do you want?
wide-eyed. What? Print?
I don't know this. What?
But I got a new one that works.
Hey, why does the printer have to have a funny accent?
Oh God.
That was me talking, not the printer. I printed out this nice picture of Oyster smiling.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Still got it on my printer loadout thing. So
Have you set up the voice recognition yet, so it'll print by your asking it to print?
I probably ought to. That's probably the next step in the completion of the office area.
Good.
Print hardcore porn.
Xbox off.
My wife's just going to be shouting that from the other room while I'm recording podcasts now. So Arkham Knight. Eventually it'll come out and work, but till then, fuck you.
It works for some people, Bear.
That's right.
I'm going to rank this.
Rob played it.
From best to worst.
Okay.
Comes out on time and works. I don't know if this is going right to left for you guys.
All right.
Comes out on time and works. Is delayed and works. Doesn't come out on time and works. Wait, that's the same thing. Comes out and does not work and is never fixed.
We're gonna have to
Keep trying. You can turn this around.
Well, maybe we'll get back to you on
Never
that.
too late, Ryan. You got
WB
this.
is in the middle of the scale.
Yeah.
They didn't release. They released it on time. Doesn't really work, but they're fixing it.
Yeah.
You're on the razor's edge. You can choose which direction to go from there in the future. Hopefully towards delayed but working would be maybe a nice compromise. People don't give a shit about delays anymore. I don't know, maybe companies do, but The Witcher 3, they were like, oh, delay it. We'll release it in March. We don't care. May, whatever. And it sold like crazy.
To some companies, the timeline of release is simply that. It's not when's the most optimal time to put out the game in comparison to other major releases coming out in the next year or two. It's when are we going to be done? When's the game going to be finished to the point of our satisfaction that we can put it out and have people buy it?
The inevitable argument is always like, oh, you don't understand. For like big companies, they have to like release it. They have shareholders, blah, 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 blah. They have to come out with it in November or June. Like, I get that argument, but also The Witcher 3 represents like 98% of CD Projekt Red's business. So for them to be like, we're just going to fucking put it out when it's done. What do I care? I mean, that is probably not the candor that they had. It just strikes me as like, if they can do that when literally like that's their all in, like surely WB can be like, well, we can wait 6 months to release this. Or I don't know, maybe that results in like half of Rocksteady getting laid off because their margins are super thin or something like that. But surely this is not the best compromise. I'm not trying to suggest that I have the perfect answer, just that fucking something else would be better.
Well, I imagine when you've got multiple IPs, you're trying to juggle and balance between them. You've got to make sure that shareholders are happy. You've got, positive increase in sales always going. And if you delay things, you might end up with a big gap of revenue that then all of a sudden makes you look really bad that year. So, I mean, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes finances that I'm sure we don't see when these decisions are made.
I wish developers would just stop caring about money and start appreciating the purity of the art form of gaming.
Well, publishers.
Or at least, like, it should be a product. Like, the product should work.
Yeah.
Right.
Mostly.
If you're going to sell us something, make sure we're giving you money for a working product.
Exactly. Like, I don't know. Maybe Warner Brothers does have, like, a lot of stuff that they have for release, but I honestly don't know. Like, they've already come out with Mortal Kombat X this year, and they've already come out with Batman. I don't think there's, like, a Shadow of Mordor sequel coming out this year. Warner Brothers, I'm trying to see, like, what they put out last year.
Arkham Origins was last year, I'm almost positive.
Okay. They put out 9 titles last year. And that's the thing, okay. They got all the Lego stuff, man. It's printing money.
Right.
They got Lego Batman, Lego Movie, Lego Jurassic Park just came out, or Lego Jurassic World just came out. It's like, there was a story last year that literally those Lego games are worth more than $1 billion combined.
That doesn't surprise me at all, yeah.
They put out Dying Light this year. You can take a little time. Maybe, like, what I can see on their upcoming schedule, at least, is Lego Dimensions, which will be, like, the 8th Lego release this year.
And it's a
Oh, man.
Skylanders-y game, so it's going to make a ton of money.
Yeah, that's gonna make so much money.
And Mad Max.
I guess you just can't have that attitude in the traditional landscape of business. When you're Warner Brothers, and this is just like the gaming division of Warner Brothers, which is a multi-billion-dollar business that spans across many forms of media,
Yeah.
they, I'm sure, are not even allowed to hold the opinion of, well, it would make us money if we sold it now, but it's broken. So if we waited 6 months, then we could put out a better product, but we would lose some money from this year's projections. It's always going to be, how do we make the most money? How do
They
we
get to launch it twice now with Batman, though.
Yeah, I
is
mean,
great
well,
for them.
in our hypothetical, yeah, they're making a shitload of money, but also it's just like I can't think that they're not sitting in boardroom meetings discussing the fact that they have a product that is ready to ship and works somewhat, and they're not okay with that.
Do you think they mostly even concern themselves, though, with, like, the viability of the game as a game? Or do they just go, we have this product, this is its SKU, and now we sell it?
I mean, that certainly turns them into more of faceless corporate
Well,
people.
I don't even mean it
but-
like that. I just mean, like, if they just look at these things as products and they have no interest in video games personally, what do they care? They're just selling a product.
But
It's
now
not
we're
their
getting
responsibility
into
to
our
worry about
Warner
that.
Brothers even gamers, which is an interesting conversation.
The people behind the launching of these things, are they necessarily invest? I don't know, man.
I think,
I'm just
yeah,
speculating.
that's valid that the people that make the decision on whether or not to flip the switch and put it out for sale
Yeah.
very well may not actually be invested in whether or not it's clean and polished.
And I'm only just comparing that to my experience working at GameStop, which there were plenty of people over me that had no interest in games. It was just products that we sold, and there's a bottom line, and that's it.
Yeah.
What are your numbers for today?
Yeah.
Not everybody that works at Mattress Warehouse is extraordinarily passionate about sleeping furniture.
Bullshit.
Yeah, I think like
Every porn star better be incredibly passionate about getting me off.
Well, I mean, I don't know if any porn star has ever done their job and thought to themselves, "Man, I hope this dude is jacking off so well to what I got
Yeah.
going on right now."
I really hope I did my job well today. Mathis just sleeps well at night.
All right, what are you saying, Ryan?
oh, I was just gonna talk like really about the issue at hand.
He was
but,
going to talk about games. I don't know where that's coming from. That seems weird.
what I was gonna say is I feel bad for Rocksteady. Like
Because
I-
you know it's not them.
exactly, you know, it's not Rocksteady going like fuck it. It's good enough. Like this
Yeah.
thing that we've worked on for like 3 years or something. It's like the sum total of all of our skills gained in the industry of like 200 people. Yeah, just fuck it. It's good enough.
Yeah.
Nobody will care, right? Like the climate in gaming right now is such that if we just come out with a shitty game, it'll probably just get swept under the rug.
Yeah.
Not a
No,
shitty game,
thank
a
you.
game that sort of doesn't work.
Yeah, come on,
Again.
man. Come on, man. Well, I guess, again, it's just a wait and see of what actually comes to be in a span of 3 to 5 months, which is, a great window of time there. But I don't know, man. It's just, this is a very peculiar situation that I can't remember a time where a AAA game has just been completely broken on one platform and been withheld from sales as a result. I can't think of an example of that. I welcome actually examples of that because I'd be curious, but that alone is so significant that it merits us discussing it for 30 plus minutes of what the fuck is happening with this release.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
I'll be
But-
curious to see what this it means for future PC releases from other companies.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope we revisit this in the fall when we know more about what's going to happen with WB and also what their next game release looks like. on
Sorry,
PC.
did you mean Australian Spring?
Yeah, sorry, Australian Spring. That's what we'll call it.
Make sure to mark down your predictions, though, man, because I want you to have that on paper of Warner is coming out with the remastered fixed edition of Batman Arkham Knight on PC
Game of the Year
come
edition.
holiday season. Oh, man. Well, that was crazy. Only discussing one game on the docket today, and then we've got our new segment, Ask Roundtable, coming up later. I'm hyping up segments of the show that haven't happened yet. That's the new thing I've got going on.
That's what we do here.
Be good.
I gotta get some coffee.
That's fair. Guild of Dungeoneering is the game we want to talk about today. It just came out on July 14th. That was 5 days ago from the time of recording. We're doing another early episode, so apologies if the big news that happened on Tuesday is not in the show. Because
Ryan's traveling again.
Yeah, and he always seems to travel whenever big news is about to hit 3 days later. That's just kind of the standard thing.
Dude just doesn't know how to stay home.
And
Have
now
you
that
ever
he's
seen
back,
him and Big News in the same room at the same time?
that's a valid point. Guild of Dungeoneering is a turn-based...
What the fuck did you say about me?
I didn't say nothing about you. I've never talked about you in my life. Turn-based dungeon crawler with a twist. Instead of controlling the hero, you build the dungeon around him. Card-based combat. $19.99 on Steam for the deluxe edition, $14.99 regular, and also the
comes with the
soundtrack
deluxe
is pretty
edition?
sweet. Soundtrack and good feelings.
Cool.
But yeah, soundtrack is $8 separate. The reviews on this are not terrific. It's got overall a 74% thumbs up to 26% thumbs down on Steam, which is kind of what I'm looking at more so than things like Metacritic these days. It's just the divide of
With
user reviews.
context, I think it's extremely useful. But without context, it can be a little dangerous.
Agreed. So Guild of Dungeoneering, if you've ever played the board game Munchkins, I'm making this comparison a lot to describe it, but it's very, very similar. So with the tabletop game Munchkins, you play rooms that build out to the dungeon on the table. So you're just like laying down little rooms next to other rooms, and you're building corridors and stuff like that. You're putting enemies inside those rooms, and maybe even trying to sabotage other people by playing bigger enemies or by playing cards that make their enemies stronger and stuff like that. This, of course, being a single-player game, you don't have that sort of interaction, but you are placing enemies and placing items in gold and other rooms, and sometimes rooms that have fountains that will give you stat bonuses or sometimes negative effects going into another fight. And there's a surprising amount of variety in it, too. There are different character classes that have different spells. They have kind of themes to their attacks and defensive moves that are cute and make sense given the nature of the character. And then you've got a few different enemy classes that are different based on how much damage they can take, what kind of attacks they use, whether or not they have certain sorts of cards. And it all works pretty well. It's another example of a game that takes a unique idea and executes it perfectly and doesn't really do anything else on top of that because it doesn't actually need to.
The general gameplay structure reminds me a little bit of the hacking segment from BioShock or like Pipe Dreams, where essentially like you're the water and you've got to figure out how to get to the boss with the cards that you're given.
Oh yeah,
and along the way you kind of have to structure in your best chance of getting rewards while watching the footstep path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like
So
that. That makes
pretty
sense.
creative, actually. It makes a lot of sense the way they structured the game. It's simple, but it's deep. It's got a nice aesthetic to it. As long as you don't get your expectations too high that this is going to be like this crazy game is probably going to spend 200 hours on, you're probably going to have a good time with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I took away anyway.
It's pretty much my philosophy is that, like, the main thing I've read about people who have played more than me is that it gets super grindy. And you can sort of see shades of that pretty early based on the fact that your characters don't really progress. Like, your characters are always at the same level.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is a little weird. Like, I almost think that from a design perspective, something that would be really nice, or really, I wouldn't say easy, but it would mean a lot, disproportionate to the amount of work it would require, is just when you complete a dungeon, maybe they get like a small statistical bonus so that when you actually lose someone,
Right.
it feels like it's actually weighty and it puts you at a disadvantage for the future. Instead of just like, oh, like this person died, I have no attachment to them, okay, send out another one. And every level does kind of have, even though there's variety in the objectives, it follows the same gameplay loop, which is not always a bad thing. I mean, Hotline Miami is just like the same loop basically repeated 400 times. But you kind of get like, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I like playing it kind of casually, and I could see myself playing it while commuting or something like that if they had a mobile version. But I can no longer see myself putting in like 10 or 15 hours into it because it's like, fight a level 1 enemy, get level 2. Then, like, walk through a fountain you didn't actually mean to walk through, get a problem, fight a level 2 monster, die. Come back the next way, you draw a hand. The hand gives you no level 1 monsters, so you just, like, walk, and then you walk into a level 2 monster maybe and die. And it's, like, it's good, but it's more, like, puzzly than kind of, like, dungeon crawlery. And my preference is towards games that hew in the other direction. But I do think it's cute and clever.
Early on, it's kind of confusing to try to manipulate your character's movement, too. You don't really understand that you have to provide certain incentives for him to want to go into a different room, or you don't realize that the fog of war, quote-unquote, that they use on the board is going to be a heavy influence toward what direction your character goes. You're kind of just basing it off of what you can observe early on, which sometimes isn't that much, and the learning curve takes a weird... not even a spike, but just kind of like a weird sideways movement where you discover certain things just kind of accidentally, such as the fact that if there's a giant monster chasing you, you can put little monsters in his path to kind of slow him down and block him off for a turn or two. And I don't know, I think it could benefit from a little bit more guidance in that direction, because those are the sorts of things that can make or break the mid-level play of the game for you if you don't understand those elements.
The fact that, like, nobody seems to fully know how the pathing works. Like, I thought it was based on gold exclusively. And then I had a situation where I placed a gold pouch on a path, my dude mapped towards it, and then the next turn I got a massive gem, which is bigger, so I put it like one room adjacent to the path that he was on, and he didn't repath to go through the massive gem. But people are still telling me that they prioritize gold, and they prioritize the highest amount of gold they could find, but they also prioritize fog of war, like you said, and they prioritize a path to their objectives. Yeah. So there's just like, there's so many competing like criteria there that I'm like, it's sometimes hard to understand what's going to happen, which is part of the design, I think. But I would have preferred, I think, if I could have set my own path, I guess, just so that I could be like, well, why would, like, it just sucks when you're like, there's gold right next to you. Just like go down, get the gold, and then come back up into the next room.
It's like when you buy a wireless printer and you're trying to get it to hook up to the network, and it's literally 5 feet away from your router, and you're just like, just go there. You see it? That's what you connect to. That's how you pick up the money, is you move to that room instead of moving in to the room where the level 4 monster is waiting to pounce on your ass, because you ain't got shit but a cooking pot on your head yet, man.
Pound my ass.
Yeah. Regarding like the meta progression, when I first started playing it, I was assuming it was going to play sort of like Darkest Dungeon, where you level up between areas, but you just get reset.
Yeah.
So it's essentially a little bit more like Rogue Legacy, only as if the castle only had like 6 rooms. So you spend a lot of time building up money to buy a few more little starting items, and then you're still starting from scratch every time. You just unlock more and more character classes as you go.
Yeah, it's got like sort of a Spelunky feel of you have a 20 to 25 minute Spelunky run where you get a jetpack and a bunch of ropes and bombs and some paste and the spectacles and all this stuff. But then if you die there, then you're just going back to the beginning, and sometimes you have to do the same dungeon multiple times in this game because they're extraordinarily difficult sometimes, and you're starting from scratch. And some people may just kind of see that as these are lemmings, more or less. These characters that I'm being given, they're just lambs off to the slaughter until I can figure out how to do this right. It's formulaic to a degree when that happens too.
It seems weird to say this because I guess it's sort of a counterpoint against my own personal skill, but I kind of prefer games where, like in Rogue Legacy, if you do really badly for a long period of time, you can fall back on just spending a bunch of money and grinding to get to a better place. So that way, if you're bad, like you'll just get past whatever you're stuck on. In this, like, if you don't have a series of good luck for a long period of time, I think you're just kind of gonna grind in circles.
Yeah.
It does seem like every magnitude increase in upgrade actually makes like a really meaningful difference. So the early guild modules are like 50. If you grind enough to get to 500, which admittedly, if you're doing poorly, is going to take forever. But those are like, as far as I know, at least as far as I've heard, objectively better than the classes preceding them.
Yeah.
Which, in a way, I actually dislike, but it's just differences in philosophy. Like, I don't understand the point, to some extent, of having so many different characters in the game. If it only like they are different, and that's cool, but it also seems like there's objectively like best ones to take, and I'm kind of like, well, why? When I go out on a dungeon run, I'm like, I'm always taking the Bruiser. Like the Mime is fun, and the Cat Burglar is kind of interesting, but I'm like, the Bruiser starts with an ability where if they block all incoming damage, it does +1 damage,
which is huge.
And there's so many like blocking cards, and early enemies do 1 to 2 damage, which is really easy to block. So you find yourself in a situation where it's like way easy to tip the scales in your favor. So I'm always taking the Bruiser, but I do think that the card combat is one of the stronger elements of the game, because it's like all card games to some extent, or all collectible card games, have like a little rock paper scissors action going on with them. Hearthstone is just like a really convoluted, like this card counters this card, which counters like not directly but like thematically. This is like that, but really simplified. Not to suggest that it's better or worse, but instead of you having to like run it through in your head, it's just literally this is like +1 -1, and you're like, okay, I have this card which is +2 -1. So if I play this, I gain like a competitive advantage on this turn, and I really like that because it really just feels like an 8-element like rock paper scissors array to me.
After a while, though, I kind of worry it starts to feel like you're just doing math equations, so it gets a little bit tedious.
You do say it's like a basic arithmetic setup. Like, I've gotten to the point where I don't even need to read the cards anymore. I'm like, okay, well, the rat played Neurotoxin, so I'm definitely going to use a block to block the effect, and then I gain an advantage there because I have the Bruiser, so now they take 1 damage. And
well, I guess that's good. You'll eventually kind of internalize the language that they have you speak, so you won't really be thinking about the exchange of damage. It's just, oh, it's that move. I do this.
Yeah.
As far as the RNG is concerned as well, I think for the most part, I've found that in the times I've died, it's most of the time my fault, because I probably should have just played differently. I should have swayed my character to go a different route, or I should have played a different card at some point during the fight. But there are times where RNG will just decide, no, fuck you, you're going to die in this fight, which is, I mean, I don't know how unavoidable that is in a game like this, but it just is just an unfortunate thing that can happen kind of semi-frequently.
I actually really like games that have RNG as a big element. Like, I love XCOM. It's not exclusively RNG, but there's a lot of dice rolls. And I love a lot of those games where people were like, oh, well, even if you play fantastically, you can get fucked. I'm like, I like that. That's life, man. Like,
right.
You could have everything and still die. It's fucked up. But anyway, 2 ways RNG annoys me in Guild of Dungeoneering are pathing. Sometimes I get fucked by pathing. Like, I'll set gold to try to divert their path, but they just walk into a monster that's like a level above them. I feel like that should be like pathing rule number 1, is like your character should realize
they should avoid
too
that.
Strong.
Yeah.
1 level makes such a huge difference that like that seems like a no-brainer, but I get that that's part of the point as well. That is fucked up, or annoying at least. And also when you have to kill level 2 monsters to get your objective, but you don't get any level 1 monsters with like your first draw. So you're just like, well, like
that should probably just happen where you get like at least 1 level 1 monster in your starting hand.
But then I can see like from their perspective, it's like, well, if we always give you like a level 1 monster, you're literally just connecting the dots now.
Yeah.
Of just like here's the order: you play the level 1 monster plus a gold piece, move over to that, and then like I can see it both ways. But
if you don't get a level 1 monster, aren't you just gonna keep dying until you get a level 1 monster anyway?
Probably true. Yeah.
So you're just gonna connect the dots eventually.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. No, I think the system is just sort of, I don't want to call it inherently flawed, but it does have the distinction of I have to get these parts or it doesnnt work functionally.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of how it ends up being, I guess. Nothing they can do about it. But I still think we've pointed out a lot of flaws, but at the same time, I'm still really enjoying it, and I think it's executed well enough for what the unique element of it is that I am enjoying myself still quite a bit.
Right, and I hope that was not coming across too negative. It's constructive criticism. I still think the game's great. It's just, there's little things we could point out in everything, really.
Yep.
I like it, and I've been returning to it occasionally while like waiting for people to sign on to play Rocket League.
Rocket League
basically.
queues, yeah.
And it's a little bit too long to use for Rocket League queues. Like if it was just a little bit shorter or a lot longer, it would like occupy a more open space, I think, in my like gaming preferences. But it's good. It's very playable is one way that I would describe it. I've got almost 3 hours into it on Steam. May put in more. Is it worth it at full price? I think it could be. It's very charming. And I think it's pretty satisfying, but it gets a little grindy supposedly, and definitely something that if you picked it up in a sale, I think you'd be more excited.
Check out a couple videos on it. You get a really good idea of what to expect. I mean, this is one of the games that you can very easily decide whether or not it's something you're interested in by seeing a couple of videos, a review, or just a let's play of it.
I think it's almost like a really great game to have in like a second monitor.
Yeah.
While you're watching something, or a game where you could have something on your second monitor while you're playing it, because it doesn't require 100% of your full attention, and I think maybe even benefits from not having 100% of your full attention.
Fully turn-based, so you're not, under any pressure whatsoever to do anything. You've got all the time in the world. But yeah, it's I think it's worth the full purchase price. $15 right now, available on Steam. Mostly positive reviews. It's Guild of Dungeoneering, and that developer is Gambrinus, by the way, who I believe is just one dude. So impressive enough there. And
Nice.
that is it for our games today. And we are now unveiling, upon announcement of it last week, it is time for Ask Roundtable, the segment that will now be appearing regularly on the show. You guys, your faces aren't on screen right now, so you can take this opportunity to do all the nasty things that you have to do in between recordings. But Ask Roundtable is going to be appearing regularly, where you guys can submit questions to us, preferably open-ended stuff, not just like a yes or no of do you like banana bread, which the answer is yes, objectively for everybody.
Yes.
Ask your questions to send them to roundtableyt@gmail.com, and we will be happy to discuss your questions on the show. The first of which is going to be coming to us from Dan, who asked the question, what do you think of Phil Spencer's influences and changes on the Xbox brand? Examples being focusing on more indie titles and giving a platform for indie developers to show off their games, straying away from the all-in-one media box that Don Matrick and crew were so focused on. Windows 10 ecosystem and integration, having monthly and bi-weekly updates with community suggestion brought to the Xbox One, and just all around turning the Xbox image around as compared to how tarnished it was after E3 2013. Seems like people like Mathis still think that the Xbox One as a whole is how it was in 2013. Thank you for your question, Dan. So, in a nutshell, what is your opinion on how Phil Spencer has supposedly turned around the image of the Xbox brand as compared to, I guess, just the overall failure that was their desires 2 years ago? Mathis, I suppose you should start this one off, considering you were called out by name.
I guess so.
Part of the question there.
I don't like. I think we talked about this during the E3 thing, and I still hold to it. It's not that the Xbox One is a bad console. It's not necessarily a bad console. And the way they marketed it 2 years ago was abhorrent, and the constant push of the all-in-one box, which was annoying, and the Kinect was obviously a huge flop and a failure. It's so much that they removed it from the bundle. My problem with the console, and just consoles in general mostly, is the lack of games that I care about. With the PlayStation 4 in particular, there's a wider variety of games that I want to play now and will want to play in the future. And it's going to boil down to personal taste, where the Xbox still seems to be in this hole of first-person shooters and sports games. And I'm totally cool with sports games. I like sports games. I own sports games. But I don't...
Playing Rocket League, does that qualify you as a sports gamer now?
No. Playing MLB on my PS4.
Okay, you still have to play at least one, nationally recognized sport.
Right.
I know you're midpoint here, but I don't understand I still feel like calling the Xbox One a console that has a lot of sports games is still kind of just riding on its old reputation.
First-person shooters and sports games is all it has, is what I'm saying. I'm cool with it having sports games and first-person shooters. Tell me, what is... Okay.
The PS4 has more exclusive sports games than the Xbox One.
that's not okay. But what I'm saying, the PS4 also has a wider variety in genres on its console than the Xbox One does currently, and for the foreseeable future. I will say the Rare game on the Xbox One looks really cool because it's that pirate thing that looked really interesting. Will also be on the PC, so I'll be grabbing it for the PC. And what was that other one? That weird like robot orb thing. She could put like the orb in different robots. That looked interesting, but everything else was Gears of War, Halo. Like again, the variety on the Xbox One is less than that of the PS4, and that's my critique of it so far and why I still don't own one. I don't think it's a bad system. I think they've done a pretty good job at turning around what they initially sold at the E3 of its announcement, but I also still think it has a long way to go to be anywhere near interesting, at least for me.
If they're trying, looking at it this way, if they're trying to become more marketable to people like us who are predominantly PC gamers who have just a completely ridiculous expansive selection of games to choose from at any point. We have probably backlogs of a dozen games between all of us that are amazing that we could play at any point. That is a really tough sell from the perspective of Xbox and Microsoft. I don't think they honestly consider themselves prime candidates to take PC gaming's throne out from under them as far as that perspective is concerned. So that's kind of why I empathize with the Don Matrick approach of going with the all-in-one media console with the Kinect support to try to aim them at a different market, which of course resulted in a horrifying backlash from the quote-unquote core gaming community. And the fact that they're kind of doubling back on that, it's not bad. I don't even want to allude to the idea that it might be a bad thing, because I still think it's better that they focus more on making the Xbox One a gaming console predominantly. But it's understandable that they would at least try to go a route that they thought maybe people were ready for.
Don't you think their biggest mistake, though, is just putting that in the space of E3, right? Like,
definitely I agree with that. Yeah, E3 2013 was a huge blunder still, because that's not what people want to see at E3. Yeah. You should still, they're giving people what they want at E3 is the thing. Like, Mathis can rip on them all he wants about showing off Halo and Gears of War and sports games at their E3 presentation, but that's what people enjoy from Xbox. We don't like it, but
speak for yourself to some extent.
Yeah, but the people that are buying Xbox Ones like playing this stuff.
Right.
So it's working for them in that respect.
My interpretation of the question is less like, what's your opinion on the Xbox One? And maybe this is a misinterpretation, but and more like, what do you think about the fact that the discourse about the Xbox One is still largely dominated by the misconceptions that have become so popular because of that E3 2013 conference. Yeah. And like, for me, the thing that irks me about the Xbox One, I just had a quick peek at like the Metacritic most top-rated games of all time. There really is a marked difference in the number of exclusive games for the PS4 versus the Xbox One. All time for the PS4, just going through the top 10, you got Grand Theft Auto 5, Last of Us Remastered is exclusive, Bloodborne is exclusive. I'm not trying to suggest that Grand Theft Auto 5 was exclusive, by the way, but you got Last of Us Remastered, Bloodborne, Flower, which is a re-release, Fez, which is a re-release, Bastion, which is a re-release, but still, the stuff that's not on the Xbox One, Rocket League, Binding of Isaac Rebirth, Towerfall, etc., etc. If you go to the Xbox One, Mathis has a good point that there, as far as I can tell, there's really nothing in the top 10 that is exclusive. Ori and the Blind Forest is also out on PC, but it is exclusive to Microsoft consoles. Minecraft Xbox One Edition, you could maybe make the case, I guess, but you'd probably have a tough time doing so. Apart from that, it's like Dark Souls 2, Witcher 3, Grand Theft Auto 5, FIFA, Guacamelee, Shadow of Mordor, Shovel Knight, NBA 2K14. So like it does have a problem there, but my problem was not Mathis's point with that, but rather that so much of the Xbox One conversation is still to me like a circle jerk about like I mean about the fact that it doesn't have that many exclusive games, but also about the fact that like they fucked up in 2013.
Kinect.
People still bring up the Kinect all the time. Mm-hmm. What do you want them to do? Like they did the Kinect thing, and then they're like, it's a mistake. We're going to discontinue it, and then people are like, wow, they just abandoned the Kinect.
Still did it though.
Yeah, right. Like
at some point.
You can't go back in time and stop.
If anything, we've learned, like, and like I said, I think it's good that they're trying to get themselves out of that hole. But you can look back at the last generation of consoles. How long did it take for the PS3 to dig themselves out of their hole that they dug in when they announced the PS3 at its $600 price point and all that shit? I mean, it took them years to get out of that hole, and I foresee the same problem with Microsoft because, like you said, people like to circle jerk about it for a long time, and it's going to take a while. Like, my problem isn't with their trying to turn around the brand. I think it's good that they're trying to turn around the brand. My problem is a personal one of I don't have anything on that console that I want. That's all.
Addressing the general scope of the question, though, again, I think in summary, I think we're all in agreement that the direction that Xbox and Microsoft are going now is better than the one they were trying to take under the leadership of Don Matrick in 2013. Is that accurate? Probably.
Yeah. I think they're definitely trying to appeal to a broader gaming audience now.
But it's definitely still questionable as to what their overall objective ought to be, just based on what their competition is, more or less.
My opinion is that they're on the right track now, and it's just going to take them a few years to really get some momentum built up because they got so derailed from a couple years ago. They needed to like restructure their whole idea about what this brand is going to be. And I think positionally what they were trying to do was really kind of get out of the industry in the way that we understand it and go somewhere else. The problem is they just didn't do it right. They showed it to us, and we were mad about it. Yeah. I think the best thing they could have done is if they really wanted to go down the media center thing is just don't show it at E3. Don't talk about this stuff that it's like it's a game console because now all of a sudden everybody's going to hold it to that standard.
Yeah.
If they really wanted to pursue that direction, show it at like Best Buy stores and don't talk about it in public the same way.
They definitely, I mean, they kind of had to because they went all in with the idea of the Xbox One and Kinect being symbiotic and necessary in order to fully experience the Xbox One. And they didn't have much of a fallback after that, which is why, I mean, it's kind of impressive based on that alone that they've been able to maintain traction for the console in such a competitive atmosphere. Because they just sort of had to improvise after that. I mean, this is a pretty broad assumption, I guess, on my part, that they wouldn't have a fallback if the Kinect fails. But it kind of seems that way, that they're just having to be like, okay, well, this approach is obviously a bust based on current trends, so we'll just kind of set that away and reconfigure based on the feedback that we've gotten. So I don't blame them for going all in with that at E3 because it's not like you're going to go to E3 and not present what you consider to be the flagship platform for your business.
I just think they had the wrong idea if they expected it to really win.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't understand their audience in that case is what I'm trying to say.
It's misguided, but I do understand like having to show it at E3.
I feel like in a way, and this is maybe something more suited to like a long form discussion than what we're doing right now, but the Xbox One is kind of like a console that feels designed, and the Wii U are consoles designed looking backwards at the Wii as like the console that dominated, at least in terms of sales, the previous generation, and being like, well, okay, to sell a console in like the modern age, it needs to have some kind of transformative gimmick.
Yeah.
So for the Xbox One is like the Kinect, the Wii U is the tablet screen, and the PS4, which has been the most successful thus far, at least in terms of sales, is just like, we're just gonna like make games on it.
And the gimmick is there's no gimmick.
We've really, for all the bluster about, mobile games are making so much money and casual games are making so much money, blah, 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 blah. I think really versus like 2006, we've seen a reemergence of a lot of like the core gaming demographic as well. People who are quote unquote gamers who would describe themselves like that want a machine that plays games, so they want something that has like a lot of games on it basically, or they want the PC which has the most games but also plays them usually the best. And I really feel like it was some corporate kind of like head in the sand stuff to be like, you know, to double down on the Kinect was so stupid. Everybody, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just because we run in different circles, but everybody on the internet was like, nobody likes the Kinect. We don't want
trying.
it.
Yeah.
Where's
It's
my
like,
Milo game?
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's disappointing, but at the same time, I feel like I don't know how you recover a console like that in this day and age when the competition is, I think, like greater than it's ever been. Like the PS4, most people recognize is like, there's no way to say it's angry people, but it's kind of like the companion to PC or like a baby PC. It's like it doesn't get everything that's on the PC. It doesn't play it in as nice quality. And it has a few exclusives, but largely if you can't get a PC for whatever reason, you go with the PS4. Or if you already have one, you go with the PS4. And it has like a lot of exclusives. So I don't know what the Xbox One can really do except be like, here's 20 great games coming out next year. The vast majority of them are awesome, and they have like incredible appeal to people that can sell consoles. Like, if you still can't convince a lot of people to, well, not a lot of people, but some people to buy a PS4 with like a Miyazaki-led new Souls IP, basically, that got rave reviews. Like, I don't know what Microsoft does to pull people away from the PS4 and the PC. But if they do it, it would be unprecedented, and I would love to see how they did it.
Agreed.
Interesting. I mean, it's also rough, like you said. It's such a competitive atmosphere. Like the one little one mishap that Xbox had at E3, PS4 immediately leapt on.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It fucking feasted upon the corpse of the Xbox, like not being able to share games. Like PS4 made such a big thing about that. It's like, you want to share a game, you do it like you've been doing it for 20 years, and people are like, woo! We can keep doing what we've been doing, and people loved it.
I think I am optimistic about the direction Microsoft is taking, almost entirely based on their presentation at E3 this year, because it was completely the opposite almost of their 2013 presentation. And they're still kind of going for that gimmicky approach too, because we got to remember they were showing off HoloLens at E3 this year, which may be their next attempt at a Kinect-esque revolution in the gaming atmosphere. I mean, of course, HoloLens, we do have to temper our expectations quite a bit as to what that technology will really look like when it's in your hands. But I still think they're going for a gimmicky, like a transformative approach, like Ryan said. But also they are doing things like backwards compatibility as well, that they are not rolling out completely yet, but it is coming in waves, and that's something that I think appeals to the core gaming scene. As well as those new games that Mathis was talking about. I still don't remember the name of that Orb game, but that looked very interesting, and they're going for new IPs, so that alone is still promising too.
Orb game, Xbox One.
It's going to get you somewhere.
Orb accessories.
Well, that's got to be the name.
Crackdown.
That's it. Yeah, Crackdown.
Was it
Crackdown is a lot
It
of
was
orbs.
Crackdown, yeah.
I mean, there is a Crackdown coming out eventually.
I think there is. I liked Crackdown, man.
I did
Crackdown
too.
was fun.
I was obsessed with the first one.
Yeah. Hi, Mathis' wife.
You're on camera.
Oh, shit.
Can you?
Oh my God, don't put it in the fucking
Don't. That's not up to me. That's up to them.
No,
Bye. Go.
Oh,
Get
no.
out. I told you I was podcasting.
We have to
Can
keep
you edit that out
No, we have
for
to
her?
keep it in the show, please.
Jesus.
Let me
Just
keep it
tell
in
her
the
you'll
show.
edit it out.
No, don't lie to her.
Oh my God.
This is amazing.
Oh man, that was really good.
All right, well, depending or whether or not I leave that in, hi, welcome back from the edit. So yeah, thank you, Dan, for your
Dan
question.
Giesling?
No, it wasn't Dan Giesling.
It was just Dan.
Just a Dan.
Dan.
I'm not gonna say people's last names, but that was just,
That's probably
that
a
was
great
Dan.
idea. Good point.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Dan, for your question. If you have a question for Ask Roundtable, oh God, she's doing it again.
She's getting the cat.
Okay. Well, I can't edit that one out. She's gonna be in here at least one time.
Don't take it out on the cat.
But that is going to do it for Ask Roundtable. Again, roundtableyt@gmail.com. If you've got questions that you'd like to submit, feel free to do so. But it's time to transition from a new beloved segment to a recurring amazing segment called Nick's Weird Games.
Sweet.
Oh,
I'm ready for Nick's Weird Games.
Nick's going to go grab a weird game, and the format is we're going to try to guess what the game is based on our clues. And for the theme song today, I'd like to hear a little bit of... I want to hear you doing Wayne Brady doing Garth Brooks.
How about you just
Good
do
luck.
What?
All right, you know what?
Can that just be it?
Yeah, I guess.
What?
Okay, like the Garth Brooks impression is already hard because he's just the country singer. But Wayne Brady doing Garth Brooks, there's no way that it doesn't get into like some weird vaudevillian like territory.
like-
I had faith in you.
Can it be like...
That would be like, it took me about a minute and a half to suss it out in my head. It would have to be a Garth Brooks song, like the lyrics of a Garth Brooks song with the hoedown cadence that they use on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah, there you go.
I went down to Nashville with my wife Trisha Yearwood. Nick got a game from his shelf. I sure hope it is real good. Like, it would have to be like that.
That's awesome.
That was good. That
was really great.
I'm
But
impressed.
you got to give a little more of a lead time on that, man.
No way,
that took
dude.
a lot. That took a lot of calculations.
That's
to
how
get to.
we. That's how we mine the gold. Is
my
giving you
God.
the impromptu suggestions. You think
All right,
Wayne Brady
acceptable.
was calculating improv sessions with Ryan Stiles and Greg Proops on Whose Line?
No, but they also didn't give Wayne Brady like a three-pronged approach. They say, oh, "Hey, we're gonna write a song about a fart restaurant," and then he's like fourth in the line, so he's
got
Think
some
about it for a
time.
little
Yeah.
bit, yeah.
All
I always
right.
felt for the first one that had to go in those songs. Like, they get no time to think. They're just in.
Nick's Weird
That's
Games.
Ryan. All right, today's game is on the PS2. It is not published by Atlas today, so
Fuck
you're
yeah.
welcome.
Oh,
There we go.
Woo!
The first
Stoked.
one I grabbed was actually published by Atlas, but I put
Ah.
it back because I didn't want to disappoint Ryan. All right, so you are the ultimate weapon in this PS2 game that was published by Konami in 2005.
That's more like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the futuristic world of Blank, nanomachines have transformed humans into horrific monster machines. As an experimental cyborg soldier, slash and rip your way through the machine onslaught with the shape-shifting plasma blade.
Digimon.
As humanity's last hope, prevent the world from falling into certain apocalypse. From the producer of the renowned Castlevania series.
What?
Guesses?
Nanomachines.
Of course.
It is not called nanomachines. The memory card save, it takes up 69 kilobytes. Does that help you at all?
I actually have like an encyclopedic knowledge of any PS2 release that takes up 69 kilobytes.
I
of
figured
memory
you did.
card.
That's why I wanted to mention it. It is an action hack and slash game. It is single player.
Is it a Dynasty Warriors mashup?
No.
Okay. There were a lot of those.
Oh, that's true.
It has multiple game modes, including story, splatter, and movie.
Oh, it's Splatoon.
Nope.
They
No,
remade it a
stealth.
decade later.
You're a kid, you're a squid.
You can acquire special skills for even more devastating assaults. There are simple controls for beginners and advanced combo system for experts. Shape-shifting plasma blade offers a myriad of different attacks, including slicing, grabbing, and smashing enemies.
This
That'll
game
be a
sounds like
rising
it has a lot of
vengeance.
variety.
It's
X-Blade.
known. Nope. It is known for being one of the most gory games on the PS2.
Oh.
Oh.
And I think that's about all I can give you.
That's all I got nothing on this
Got
one.
nothing.
Did we get developer yet?
Developed by Konami TYO.
Fuck.
Yeah, I think I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I
Sure.
got nothing.
Today's game is called Nano Breaker.
Nano Breaker.
Huh.
You're right with the nano part, it's just not nano machines.
Yeah. I've never heard of this.
Never heard of this?
Nano Breaker.
Bring
very
some
extreme
good
game.
old-fashioned American games on this.
All right, I'll take a look.
Just a purely average game. 2.5 out of 5 on Metacritic. 4.5 out of 10 on IGN. 5.5 out of 10 on GameSpot.
Games Radar rated Nano Breaker #1 on their original The Bloodiest Games You've Never Played list.
I love that list. It's such a good list.
Quite
I
an
figured
acclimate.
since you've never played it, maybe you wouldn't be able to guess it. So that's another point for me.
Game Trailers also rated Nano Breaker as the bloodiest game you've never played. This is the
popular
bloodiest game I've
designation.
never played, man.
Multiple people had that list?
Yeah, man.
You need to play it.
What the hell?
The thing is, the blood was actually questioned whether or not it was actually blood, because it might just be oil, since these are cyborgs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it may not be the bloodiest game you've never played, depending on your stance on this fluid.
Could be the oiliest game I've never played.
Very oily.
Main character voiced by Crispin Freeman is called Jake the Genocide Hero.
Yes,
I know,
I
right?
also see this.
Such a name.
genocide hero.
You don't see that too often.
No, yeah, those two words aren't often lumped together.
Genocide hero.
You explore a large
wow.
island stage.
And his main villain, Keith.
Fucking
Jake-
Keith, man.
Jake the Genocide Hero versus
The player will be facing
One of those
the
two should be the villain, and I don't think it's Keith.
You never know. If he's the genocide hero, imagine what Keith's done.
The
I
game
think-
takes
right.
place on Nanomachine Island. That's the name that they chose.
Yeah,
to go
and it's
with?
inhabited by Orgamechs.
Orgamech.
shit.
Feels like
Orgamechs.
something
Orgamech
Sonic the
Crush.
Hedgehog would show up to crush,
Right.
essentially.
Oh, sorry.
Jake-
General
Orgamechs.
Raymond is the main antagonist. That's my mistake.
Ray, good old nobody.
What
Everybody,
is
I thought
Keith's-
everybody loved Raymond. Actually, I
Nah,
Not
nobody
this
likes
guy.
Raymond. Jake the Genocide Hero, I feel like that's a self-proclaimed title where everyone else is maybe calling him Jake the Genocidal Maniac.
Yeah, right? To be a genocide hero with stars in his eyes.
Standing in the blood with his sword down low.
Oh,
I'm
man.
not going to keep going on that one.
That's
It's got too
all right.
many breaks.
You tried.
All right. That is Nick's Weird Games, and that is today's episode of the Roundtable Podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you very much for supporting as well. If you are a Patreon on patreon.com/roundtable, $5 a month is all we ask from you, particularly you, Jake the Genocide Hero. We know you're out there listening. Please help us out. Those pledging at the $20 tier and above on patreon.com/roundtable getting early access to the podcast. That's $10. I was
That's
thinking
20
of
is a
last
shout-out.
time. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. So if you're looking for 24-hour early access, that's going to get it to you right there. Those at $20 and above get a shout-out at the end of each video, which I'm going to do now. Thank you very much, Max Pillin, Christopher Flagg, Garrett Stewart, General Crunk, Alexander Spillman, Jonathan Graham, Jeff Rush, Air Force Balls, David Bradley, Matt, Julian Avelsgaard, Hired Help, Caspian Crawdad, Kevin Birkeland, Casey, Johannes Goldon, Matthew Monahan, Zur, Kevin Recommend Walker, Connor Littlewood, Rumble Muffin, Simurfet, Logan Ray, Justin, Brizzle Brip, and Ignacio0891 for your incredible support on the Patreon page. Thank you guys so much for that.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
be
you.
back. Let's see here. The next podcast is going to be August 7th.
Oh shit! August already.
August.
Jesus Christ!
It's
Wow.
fucking nuts.
Then they're all going to go away for PAX.
That's true. Yeah, so
No, we'll have one more before PAX.
I know.
I think we'll have one more before PAX, yeah. And then we should be live next week as well on the Roundtable Twitch account. Also, those of you pledging at the $75 tier, we are going to be figuring out the time slots for that very soon for those monthly gaming sessions. Also have the new $50 tier available on the Roundtable Patreon. If you'd like to suggest a gaming topic for us to cover in episodes forthcoming, feel free to check out that $50 tier on patreon.com/roundtable as well. Subscribe to us on iTunes, rate it 5 stars, Roundtable PC on Twitter, and of course you can subscribe to the RSS feed via the links provided every single new episode on that Twitter page, and you can submit feedback for the show either in the form of an iTunes review or roundtablepodcast.reddit.com, which contains the text version, I suppose, of the upload and discussion for every single episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll be back in August. See ya!
See you later, everybody.
This podcast is entirely listener supported. To consider making any sort of contribution, large or small, visit patreon.com/roundtable.